Hey everyone, welcome back to Guys Teach Stuff. Today, you'll be learning about life processes, organ systems, and transplants. Topic 7AE and 7AE, in your Exploring Science textbook 7, with myself, Aditya. So, what do all living things do? Some of you guys would say that they eat, sleep, exercise, and many of you guys will say that they game as well. Well, let me tell you exactly what they do. Nowadays, we have loads of cures for diseases and death. However, so did the ancient Egyptians. Although, how effective they were is a completely different question. The ancient Egyptians had cures for death, including some made from onions and beer. However, to be honest, it probably didn't work. When they did die, the important people were mummified. Their important organs were preserved. I already covered mummification, organs, and tissues, and you can click the pop-up banner in the top right to see the in-depth video on organs and tissues, topic 7AB and 7AC, or click the link in the description. However, today we have a different idea of what it is to be alive. If something can do life processes, it is an organism, which is just a fancy word for a living thing. Well, what are life processes, you may ask? Well, let's find out. If something can move, reproduce, sense things, grow, respire, excrete waste, and needs nutrition, we classify them as an organism. Let's look at these life processes in depth. First of all living things or organisms can either move parts of themselves or they can move themselves as a whole. An example of an organism moving parts of themselves are many types of plants. Their flowers turn to follow the sun during the day to maximize photosynthesis, which I covered in the previous video I was talking about earlier. Next, we have reproduction. All organisms can make more living things similar to themselves, and we can say that they reproduce. For example, someone reproduced to make you. Next, we have sensitivity. Organisms can sense and react to things around them. The 5 main senses are sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Next, we have growth. When living things increase in size, we say that they grow. For example, if you get taller, you're growing. Next, we have respiration. Us humans, like most living things, need oxygen to live, and we call this process respiration. Living organisms use respiration to release energy for them to use. Next, we have excretion. Organisms produce waste materials, like poo and wee, and when we get rid of these materials, we say that we excrete them. Finally, we have nutrition. Living things require various vitamins, minerals, and nutrition values from our foods to help carry out the other life processes I described earlier. We say that they need nutrition. For example, think about the last meal that you had. You probably had a mix of carbohydrates and proteins, and these things respectively have substances within them that we need. Animals like us eat food, but plants make their own food through photosynthesis. However, they still require small amounts of nutrients and minerals from the soil to help them grow properly. Now, many of you guys will say, Aditya, there are so many life processes. How do I remember all of them properly? Well, when I learned this topic, this is the same question I wanted to ask my teacher, but he was big and scary, so I never did. Well, you can use a mnemonic to help you remember this. The easiest one is Mrs. Gren. Gren spelled G-R-E-N. Each letter represents each life process respectively. Now, let's move on to organ systems. There are many cells in our body, and when cells of the same type are grouped together, they form something called a tissue. Different tissues are found grouped together, and they form an organ. I already covered organs and tissues, but I also covered cells and microscopes in a different video, and you can click the second pop-out banner in the top right to see the in-depth video on cells and microscopes, topic 7AC and 7AD, or click the link in the description. Anyways, back to organ systems. An organ system is a group of organs that work together. It's that simple. Before, in the times of the ancient Egyptians, doctors could see that organs were connected, but did not understand why, as they did not have the technology nor the facilities that we have today. Today, we know that hearts and its tubes carry blood all around the body. Let's first look at human organ systems. So these tubes are vital for our lives and are called blood vessels. These blood vessels work with the heart to form the circulatory system, which is an important organ system and one you need to know about. Other examples of organ systems include the locomotor, which consists of the muscles and bones, the digestive, urinary, breathing, and nervous systems. The circulatory system carries oxygen and nutrients from food all around the body. The digestive system breaks down food and takes nutrients from it into the blood. The urinary system gets rid of waste materials produced in the body, and finally, the nervous system, which consists of the spinal cord, the brain, nerves, and much more, allow you to sense things. Now, let's move on to plant organs. Yes, plants also have many organs made up of tissues, and yes, plant organs also work together in organ systems too. For example, the water transport system in plants take water from soil up to the leaves. Water is always flowing through this organ system because leaves constantly lose this water from evaporation in the leaves. Now, let's move on to the final topic of this video and the final subtopic of topic 7a, transplants. Unlike before, doctors today know a lot about cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems. They also have microscopes like light and electron microscopes and other tools to help investigate our bodies. Like I mentioned in an earlier video, if a doctor thinks there is something wrong with one of our organs, a piece of tissue which we call a biopsy is taken from the organ and examined to help the doctor identify the problem so that the doctor can plan a treatment for recovery. Sometimes, however, an organ cannot be treated, and doctors consider doing something called an organ transplant. And this is when an unhealthy or damaged organ is replaced by a healthy organ, usually from a person that has recently died. The idea of transplants go all the way back to 2,700 years ago, when an Indian doctor called Sushruta replaced someone's skin through a transplant. Today, doctors can do all sorts of transplants, from lungs, livers, and kidneys to faces, arms, and even legs. Now, let's look at this checklist. You should be able to recall and describe life processes. As well as this, you should be able to explain the differences between organisms and non-living things. You should also be able to identify and recall main organs in the plant-water system. And you should also be able to identify and recall the functions of the human locomotor, digestive, circulatory, breathing, urinary, and nervous systems. Finally, you should be able to recall what an organ transplant is. Thank you very much for watching Guys Teach Stuff. Please come back to this channel for more science videos that will be uploaded in the near future. Thank you. That's it for me, Aditya.